Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Today we are going to continue work on the outline for this keynote that I'm giving in September. COVID willing and the creek don't rise, to malform a phrase. Keynote in question is on mental health in tech and on everything else, like just the world in general. In the last 18 months, we've all undergone a lot of stress and a lot of other things. So this is a broad, really, I mean, if you wanted to put a total single label on it, it's about stress management. Hey, Lyra, how's it going? But that's more of a stress management's like too narrow, really, a scope for what I'm trying to pull here. So, we've made quite a bit of progress on outline stuff. We have a couple left to go through, and that will be it for the outline. So we're going to see how far we can get tonight. All right. So just to get it out of so it's not red and searing, we're going to switch back to the blue outline. Okay, so we started off by talking about the summary of what's happened, basically. And we started leading into the next piece. Now, this is about trauma, and very broad strokes about trauma and how it's relative to the individual, and that it matters. And then we move into why. We start talking about what I added last time we streamed, which was a whole bunch of stuff about neurocentric bias and extended mind, as a setup to the next piece, which is to talk about the walled garden in the dark forest, which is this metaphor I'm borrowing from Gleb Tversky to explain what's going on in your brain about a lot of these things, and how the emotional side of your brain is dramatically affecting. Oh, hey. Is it fragilities? Thanks for the follow. Right, where was it? Oh, the dramatic effect that it can have on your actual cognitive abilities. That is going to be the lead in to the next piece, which is, all right, what happens now? A lot of my talks do a lot of, I told you that to tell you this. Talking about the underpinning things, how things work, the underlying mechanisms, or at least the metaphors for the underlying mechanisms going on in the brain. I have to keep reminding myself that I usually talk about the map, not the map, not the territory. I'm not talking about reality per se. I'm talking about metaphors that we've learned about psychology, about the behavioral side of things. Anyhow, this is the piece. So what happens when our routines are disrupted? We're cut off from our external mind and from all these other people, and okay. So there's an obvious answer to what happens there. Things don't go well. Yeah, I believe it. I didn't because of, mostly because of internalized male toxic masculinity, but felt like it. Yeah. Well, depending on when you grew up or how you grew up, guys were allowed to, but not with my family. So, there's other things that I don't want to get into because this is not a psychotherapy podcast. This is me developing things. So, okay. don't know if I really want to get into the comfort-seeking behaviors, because that can get really weird and personal, so I probably don't want to go there. But I do want to throw that out there. There. That's better. I don't want to start, like, putting people on blast and talking about emotional eating or anything. And by putting people on blast, I mean me. Okay. So where am I getting to? Where am I need to get to? I need to get into ways to recover. But this is the summary of what is happening to us in those moments. So, emotional responses overwhelm the cognitive processes. Okay. This may shift around in terms of direction, but I want to call out... Oh, I always forget, is it sympathetic or parasympathetic? Which one is that? I think it's sympathetic. The sympathetic is the screamy one. The parasympathetic is the one that mitigates the screamy one, I believe. Okay, they're all about the atomic systems. Yeah, so sympathetic is the fight or flight. Got it. We do try to... Ooh, that's actually a really good one to mention, because that explains part of the toilet paper thing. Probably. There's other things about the toilet paper that inflect there, but the spike in demand was also just because of... was not just because of it. Yeah, there's other things. You can't explain the spike in hand sanitizer, etc. on that. Can't explain the spike in hand sanitizer on the dynamic between commercial and non-commercial toilet paper production, which is part of the thing that made that so weird. Anyhow, toilet paper is still a grabby example. This is the conundrum I find myself in sometimes, and looking at other people who are way more prolific, way better science writers than I am, I see them having the same struggle of, do you go for the thing that is narratively or that was a really shitty chef's kiss. There we go. Or do you go for the thing that is more factually correct? Malcolm Gladwell has completely leaned on the first side of things. But there are other ones who kind of toe the line various places. I can feel that conflict in my head sometimes, and this is a perfect example. Toilet paper, perfect example to go like, why were people hoarding toilet paper? But there's realities to that situation, externalities to that situation in an economic sense of the term, but that make it less true than some of the other things, but it's still a better narrative example. And I don't know, I'm one of the people that always sits in the audience and goes like, but that's not entirely true. And then I'm gone for 5 minutes on thinking in my head about, hey, this is, bad this is what the other case was, etc. And then I'm not paying attention to the talk. I mean, I get like that anyway because of the way my brain works, but anyhow. Well, actually, the pandemic wall was later, wasn't it? I guess what actually happened was normalization. I have no idea how much of this is going to stay. We definitely have a lot of content, but it's worth walking through it and then figuring out what we need to get rid of. The period doesn't need to be in quotes. I mean, not that it's going to show up in the thing anyway. Okay. So I'm going to go into more here. There's definitely more I could go into. Question is, again, I'm just not sure how much content we've got versus, it's hard to tell on the page how much content there actually is, and how much it'll be on stage. Once I start turning it into individual slides, I will know a little better because I have a rough idea of how many slides I tend to go through in an hour, which is somewhere around about 120. New ritualistic behaviors. You're not wrong. I'm just trying to figure out where that fits in the timeline of... Probably fits all along the timeline. put that for now up here. Although I'm just going to say new rituals, because new ritualistic behavior sounds like I'm writing a psych paper. One of the goals for this is not too many floofy psych terms. Oh, yeah. Frick! That would be amazing to go into. I just don't know if I'm going to have time for it. Because that's exactly what happened. As humans end up, not only do we use our rituals to tell time, we use significant events to tell time. Like, we have demarcation events that we use. Like, that was before I went on this trip, or art after I went on this trip. And all those went away too. You didn't have anything that broke you out of the routines that was then a departure point that you could use to demarcate time before and after. Fascinating thing to talk about. Not sure how well it fits in here, but worth putting in here, and we'll see if I can pad. If it's certainly someplace I can pad out if I need to go more. It's rarely a problem I have, but who knows? I think I'm going to move that down here because it makes a little more sense. Yep, save for later. Mark it down and okay, that's actually some way to talk about that. Cannot possibly words are hard. Why the autonomy self exists. Okay, let's break this into 2 columns for right now. There's another rabbit hole I can go down. Default mode network. Hey Sarah, how's it going? Yeah, Ken reached out and asked if I would give a keynote at Prairie Code. So I said yes. So I'm working on building out the outline for that. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying to make this one more keynote than I guess the other ones are even, but just trying to really pull it up from the weeds a little bit and make it a little more broad. General topic is just kind of brains and the pandemic, more or less, I guess. Been talking, all of the outline so far is mostly about like what happened, how your brain, well, models of how your brain works, and then what happened during the pandemic. And I probably at a point where we can talk about ways to start recovering. And that's actually probably a nice transition then is see you, Lyra. Thanks for dropping by. Happy thinking. I don't know if I want to put lack of forward progress, but I'm struggling for the words I actually want to put there. Okay. Got the transition there, moves on. Bang. Okay. Out. Back to blue. Oh, don't you even design ideas at me. Okay, what do I want to do? Here. What do I want to pivot from this? Got... Oh, man, do I want to... Okay, so now I'm wondering if I want to do mentioning some cognitive biases here that actually help us. That's what I would do in a normal talk. I'm not sure I want to do that here. Because I could mention things like continuity bias. and how we tend to stitch, and how we normalize things, and how we normalize events. But I don't know that that's going to be helpful, and I don't know that that's really the content I want to quite pull in here. So I may skip past that and think through this in a different way. Okay, so ways to recover. The language in all of this is going to have to change, but it's fine for right now. That's an obvious one. Don't want to go to CBT here either. It might be a thing to mention. Okay. Did you not? There we go. Maybe that is what I need to do. There. That's what I need to do. I need to theme these. That's going to be what gets me the thing. Because I talk about the very specific kind of things. We got the burnout, lack of forward progress, emotional problems, physical health problems, PTSD, etc. What are you doing? Stop it. Okay. Positive active clear outcomes can help combat burnout. There's probably more here. Nice. I'm sorry you had to go through the burnout. But I'm glad you're moving forward. Honestly, a new job is one of the better ways to combat that because it reinstills hope, right? Gives you an excuse to hope when you might not otherwise at the old place. Let's see. Anything you could do to get, I don't know, this is pulled from a couple places, but one of the big things about burnout is that it's not just about the amount of work, it is that you feel like you are not making any progress, that you cannot see the outcome of your actions. And so that's why I mentioned here about, this comes out of Give and Take by Adam Grant, which is sitting down there on the floor that I got to flip through to make sure I can dig up the references, but he talks about finding a way to give back in a way that you can see the end result, can really help combat that degree of burnout, even when, like I said, it looks paradoxical because it's like, you're asking me to do more work? But yeah, but it's a specific kind of it that, I mean, one of the things I get out of speaking actually is I can talk to people, I can hear changes that I make, I can hear from people sometimes years later who say, hey, I remember that thing you said in a talk. And it's like, yes, that feels great, but it also means I'm changing things. You have visibility into the outcome sometimes. Not great visibility, but I mean, volunteering at a soup kitchen, things like that are obviously way higher on the visibility of the outcomes. But let's see, what do I want to do here? Probably going to need more here as well. Okay, we can do that. All right, I'm going to be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I heard my fridge go off, or alarm go off, because the door was open. Deep breath, okay. One's obvious. What's up, Sean? How's it going? Doing all right. It's a long day at work. I ended up having to write here. This is JavaScript. I'll type it in the chat. I had to write this piece of code today. Had to write that, and it pained me greatly. But that's what the frickin' service was sending, and what I had to deal with. Just like, really? Oh, it's a message thing, and I see exactly how they got to where they got, because they published the format of this message, and then they're like, well, now I need a different kind of thing. So then they just stuffed a different message inside the payload of the first one, and then they repeated that process. Well, it's TypeScript technically, but message.value. Wow, that is a lot of values. I think you win on dots. Yeah, that seems awkward at best. Mm-hmm. Done. Okay. Really want to get through this outline tonight. We're so close. Or at least a first draft of the outline. I'll have to read it through later and obviously make sure that the flow works. But probably don't want to use that word. Oh, man. Okay. Only have a couple. It's probably good enough here. Can always stuff more in. Okay, so this I want to talk about because we need to. This is what happens when you protect yourself. You have external systems. First thing I want to put in here is this is a phrase that I need to get tattooed somewhere, probably. Put on your own oxygen mask first. I've heard the phrase used, and in the context I'm using it, which is don't try to meet all of your external obligations without taking a moment to make sure that you have the things in place that you need to be going on it. Like, a lot of the times the first things that will drop habit-wise are the things that are that help you sustain. I fell out of the habit of meditating, for instance, and that was not great. I really need to work myself back into that. Was not a great word for that. But I'll change it later. There's implications of the word stable. And I don't mean the horse ones. Let's see. My mic work? It is working. Okay, just making sure. Let's just say okay for right now. Nice. What are your 2 talks on, Sean? Microservices? Oh, wow, next week. Okay. Yeah, cutting it down to the wire. Nice. Still a microservices talk. It's, I don't know. I enjoy it, Sarah, because I use it as a way to force myself to learn things. This talk being, I don't know. At the very least, even if I'm not necessarily learning anything quote unquote new for this talk, I'm definitely using it as an opportunity to frame things in my head in a different way. And I mean, every time I go through the material, every time I go through content, I'm processing, reforming. This I'm using as an opportunity to force myself to be more general with some of my content that I would normally be. You've seen me talk about that a couple times as I've gone through this, that I'm really trying to diminish the number of psychological terms that I'm using. I'm still going to have all the references, but I'm trying to push this toward an audience that may not necessarily be all like just all in like I am on this positive psychology side of things. So oh yeah, that cycle's not fun. I mean, some of it helps to understand what's happening. At least for me, part of that is by the time I am giving a talk, like the day before a talk, I have lived with that content for so long, both in reading about it and learning about it and formulating the talk and building the outline and drawing the damn slides and practicing. The content has just been in your head so long that you don't know what it's like to not know it. And you've completely forgotten what it was like to not know it. And that makes it seem obvious, at least to me. Or at least this is the process for me. And then I'm sitting there going, well, is anybody actually going to like this talk? Because all of this is just completely obvious shit. And it turns out it's not most of the time. Certainly not to the most of the audience anyway. And that's a trap that I get caught in a lot. It's a cognitive bias called the curse of knowledge. Your brain can't know a not thing. So it can't know a negative. So your brain cannot understand what it is like to not know a thing that it knows now. And this is why you get adults that have shifting views on what their childhood was like, or what they thought when they were a child. You can present them with journals that they wrote when they were children, and they were like an alien wrote them. Not an alien, but certainly a different person, because you were a different person then. You don't know all of those things. That's a good point. Blogging does get over that hump a little bit. Now, that's not the only reason that you get the anxiety about a talk. I mean, obviously, there's still some degree of, am I going to flood this up? Is it relevant? Is the content, does it flow well? Are people going to understand it? Are all my demos going to work if you have demos? I mean, there's all of that stuff too. But a lot of the boom and bust cycle for me of the giving a talk is just utter familiarity with your content. And this is actually a thing that authors suffer as well. You read people, talk to people who've written books, and I mean, Sean can probably tell you, right? At a certain point, you're just like, I hate this book. Why am I writing this book? And it's not the effort per se. It is just, you're there with it all the time, and it's never not there. I think that's fair. Like, talking about this is your journey, this is one way to take it, is honestly a very clear way to say up front and acknowledge, even if not explicitly, kind of acknowledge some privilege, acknowledge your mindsets and the way you work and the way you are. I mean, here's the joke. Nobody's qualified to be writing anything. Look at the books people have written. Look at fucking Malcolm Gladwell, who still gets all these books and shit. And millions of dollars. Anyhow. Malcolm Shotwell. I appreciate that. No, it's, I don't know. I Now you got me thinking about why I've never actually written one. Aside from that, I don't. My biggest problem is, I guess, I don't know how to focus what I know into something that feels book useful or book worthy, I guess. That hasn't already been written. Just clear. You'd think that, but it's probably not. I mean, you look at, well, look, I mean, look at the giving a presentation. How many people are out there teaching how to give presentations? Not many. Part of the reason I started the Twitch is I really want to try and be out there being like, this is what works for me. This is the style I think. This is the way I think about it. This is the way I try to approach these things. And I'm not like a genius at making this stuff. I think I'm good, but not like amazing. But yeah, and I think it's easy to get trapped in the understanding of or in the narrowness of the presentation. And there's so much more about the rest of it. I mean, especially once you get into like the DevRel side of things. Not that I'm even in DevRel, but okay. Put on your oxygen mask. Build these external systems. There's got to be more than that. Oh, God. Let's get a little badge. I mean, we could just do if I could trademark it as certified art. Just put all my stuff as certified art. Okay. I know there's more in here that I need to dig in, but I think a lot of these are going to be pretty quick to blow through in terms of talking about them, in terms of content. Inside joke. Okay. This feels super light. And I know I'm going to have to make this more concrete and more larger. But I think what I'm going to have to do right now is keep moving onward and finish out this bit. You're making me want to actually dig up Affinity Designer and design a little certified art like plaque. It'd be funny. Mention that there. Everybody's completely welcome to bring in like questions. If you're comfortable about it, we can review stuff on the stream. If you've got things you want to bring on, I'm more than comfortable with that. Okay, we mentioned creative plays. I moved creative play up above so that I'm not just playing out of the blue here. What are you doing? It should be. That's not going to be a great phrasing. Don't want to exhort people to go find something to love at the conference. It's probably not a great. This is a great slide into some COC violations. Nice. Have you read Sam Julian's post on Obsidian? Let's see if I can dig that up. One of the things that I really need to spend some time looking at Obsidian, or whatever the other one, the older one was, Notion, is the linking capabilities to it, and like the ability you can drop in a couple things. Let's see if I can find the link. Sam's in DevRel, so he's got a bit of that spin to it, but okay. Okay, this outro is going to need a little work, conclusion-wise, because I don't want to be like, I don't want to exhort them to heal, because that's going to feel real weird and awkward for people that are not ready to do that yet. I don't want to be all, I don't know, I've got to, there's a tone that I've got to strike here that I'm really going to be real careful about. It may just be that I have to start talking, physically start talking, and hear what comes out of my mouth. See what my actual thoughts on this are. So that may be something that's coming from somewhere that's not actually my language center. Yep, starting to hit the wall. Okay, let's see if I can plow through the tiny bit of it we have here at the end. Okay, tomorrow, I want you to learn to play. Bro. Stand up. There, okay, that actually works. Link. Oh, nice. Man, I haven't seen Phil in ages. When is it? Oh, dang it. I have a board meeting that night, so I won't be able to make it, unfortunately. Sorry. Whole, like, have to have a board meeting every month because it's in the bylaws kind of thing. Whatever. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see when the thing gets over. We're like pushing through the last bits of, we've applied for nonprofit status and now we're waiting on that to go through and trying to figure out what we're actually doing in like the coming months and year, trying to figure out how to actually get this thing spun up off the ground. So I don't anticipate it's going to be quick, unfortunately. It's good, a meeting has to happen, but it's frustrating. Oh, I gotta tie it back to the title. Okay, that's probably good enough for now. Just in terms of the framing, because that brings it back to the topic, brings it back to the Dark Forest, which is the title. Well, Surviving the Dark Forest is the title. Or Navigating the Dark Forest, Survival Under Fire. Okay. Okay. It's going to need some smoothing. It always does. It's going to need some reorganizing. It always does. It's going to need the little things as it goes fractal. Always does. Especially once I turn it into slides. But we have a complete outline. I want to say 10 is a really high number for me for outline slides. But I also think it is, a lot of these are a lot more wordy than some of my other outline slides are. There's usually a little more terse sentences on that. So, with all that said, probably done for the night. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. But probably done for the night. Thanks everybody for dropping by. Sean, Sarah, Lyra. I will be streaming tomorrow. We'll be starting Mist Exile in my playthrough of the Mist games, which is the third Mist game. And probably will be streaming. I won't be streaming Thursday because of the board meeting, but we'll probably be doing some this weekend to get things through. But nice. Well, let me know, and I'll tune in, Sean. Everybody else, have a great night.